Hey everybody, so I just wanted to give an explanation here on the predation assignment to help with the instructions for it. So this kind of goes with the same presentation that you would have been looking at last week about competition and predation. You already did an assignment focusing on the competition part. This is about the predation part. So it's another chart that you're going to be filling out. So you're going to have several different defense mechanisms, and for each one you're going to be coming up with an example species with that defense mechanism, so some sort of either plant or animal that would have that type of defense. Then in this column, you'll talk about how the example species uses that defense mechanism. So again, if we're looking here at this first one, defense using coloration. If we were talking about an example species like the honeybee, which had those yellow and black stripes along its body to be kind of a warning to other animals, that's how they use that defense mechanism. Then you would get here to a predator that eats the example species. So literally there are lots of animals that do end up eating bees, either sometimes animals that are smaller than them that will eat the baby bees, or you have certain types of birds. There are specific ones called bee eaters that do eat bees. So you might talk about that as being a predator that eats the example species. And then in the last column, you want to talk about adaptations the predator uses to overcome the prey's defense mechanism. So what do those bee-eating birds do to avoid that coloration, the warning coloration that they would have been given there? Or, how do they avoid the stinging mechanism along with that? So again, you're going to kind of look at what the predator does to overcome the defenses that the prey has. This is why we talk about in a lot of cases, even though prey has ways to defend itself, there's usually at least one type of predator that can break through that defense, at least at some point in the animal's life. So the different types of defenses that we're looking at here, defense using coloration. So again, things like blending in or warning coloration, maybe disruptive coloration, counter shading. Techniques like that would be defense using coloration. Defense using part of the outside of the body besides coloration. So maybe something like spikes, hard armor or tough skin, anything that kind of is an exterior protection. Defense using poison or venom, again, something that can make either a toxic reaction whenever the animal is maybe either consumed or touched, or it injects it in the case of venom. A defense using a large population, so either animals that herd together, or animals that produce lots of offspring to make up for predators eating some of those offspring. And then finally, defense using behavior, so maybe things like posturing, using things like extensions of the neck to make themselves look bigger, or puffing up with air. Lots of different things. Anything that probably doesn't fit into one of these other categories would most likely fall into this one, talking about using behavior. So there's a couple of different places that you can look at for this information. Obviously, the first one would be to look at the predation slideshow that you already had last week. The examples that we talked about at the end are all different examples of animals that have defense mechanisms to protect themselves from being preyed upon from predation. So those are ones that you could use as your examples if you see things that fit in. The other thing that I did, I left a link to a document here. So this is from the Royal Saskatchewan Museum, Predator and Prey Adaptations. So as you scroll down through it, a little bit further down, you'll start to find different types of prey defense mechanisms. So here it talks about like camouflage with white-tailed jackrabbit. They'll talk about some different examples of that. Senses as ways that prey will defend themselves in that way. So they talk about a few different methods like that. And then here it talks about predator hunting adaptations. These are like the last two columns of the chart. So what things predators have that can overcome some of those defense mechanisms. So if you are struggling to find an example that works for you, this resource might help you quite a bit with that. But in general, I think the chart should be pretty easy to fill out if you do a little bit of research. So again, if you have any questions of this assignment, please feel free to call me, email me, or you can reach us via Zoom for our science department office hours every weekday, Monday through Friday, 9:30 to 10:30 a.m.